You're tuned in to Word of Mom Radio here on the Word of Mom Media Network.
Hi, and welcome back to the Ask Mom Parenting podcast because parenting is everything. I'm Sue, and with me is Randy, and this is your no bullshit, no filter, and zero guilt parenting reboot. Whether you're deep in the toddler tantrums, navigating tween or teen drama, or somewhere in between, you'll get clarity and actionable tools one episode at a time. Today, we're diving into something that almost broke me as a mom, and that's being controlling. Episode 3 is how to stop overparenting, trust yourself, and not your fear. Here's what I've found as one of the hardest and also the most rewarding things that we can do as a parent, and that's to learn to let go and step back from being a controlling or micromanaging parent. And here's the kicker. The more we try to control our child, the less control we actually have. If we think we're keeping it all together because we're running the show, what we're actually doing is inviting our kids to lie or rebel or just basically survive our grip. The irony of being overinvolved as a parent is that letting go is actually how you gain the influence and connection that you're looking for. Here's a counterintuitive twist that I discovered. You have to lose control to gain control. This topic is such a personal journey for me. During this podcast, I'm going to share a story about the moment that I realized I was doing way too much as a mom. We'll unpack some hidden ways that control sneaks into our parenting, and I'll give you a real world plan for how to let go yourself without letting things fall apart.
The topic of control is very interesting because this actually really surprised me as a parent. I did not think I would see control come out in the way that it does come out. I thought, cool, calm, and collected, and kind of would parent my kids how my parents parented me. And that's not really the case, which I find interesting. And I kind of think a lot of that has to do with the world we live in today, because for me, control comes out in ways that you don't necessarily think is control. And it takes a while to uncover and realize that that's what you're doing. So for me, I never thought I would experience control as much as it is. It's actually something I'm kind of actively working through because, like I said, it's just very small ways. One of the ways that I see the most, and I think a lot of parents today can relate, we're much busier than I think parents were in the past. And a lot of times my control is just simply it's because of time. And I have only started to recognize that recently. We need to get somewhere. There's no time for the mess, the meltdown, or anything like that. So for me, that's been a big realization that I've had, and actually something I'm actively working through right now.
That is my experience. It's not control if it's not love, right? A lot of times we're trying to figure out how to get from A to B, and we don't realize that we're applying control, or we don't realize that we're putting our own opinions into everything and that we just want it done sooner. And that was pretty much my personal journey as well. When I'm working with parents through workshops and we try to get to the bottom of how control is seeping into your parenting, we start with a little self-honesty check. And there's some common ways where we can justify holding on too tightly. And parents tell me things like, I'm just keeping them safe. Well, that's totally fair until safety becomes a cover for micromanagement, right? And, I don't have time to let them do it themselves. That was really my thing. I need it done fast. I need it done my way because my way is the better way. I've had X number of years on this planet and they're just learning. So it's easy to kind of interrupt that process and place efficiency over growth and, in so doing, hijack their independence. And, in my case too, it wasn't necessarily fear that had me controlling the kids and the outcomes of what was happening, but it might have been, if I don't do it, it won't get done right. Type A personality, right? It's perfectionism pretending to be helpful. If I'm not doing everything for them, am I really being a good mom? That one seems to resonate with many of the moms that I work with. But we need to trust our kids' decision making and give them that space to decide and to choose and to experience life's pitfalls without rescuing. The reality is that control is a response to fear many times, the fear of failure, the fear of chaos, the fear of sometimes not being enough. And, when we prevent our kids' discomfort, we're also preventing their growth and their ability to become resilient to life and its challenges. And so what we're really looking for is to raise kids who can work through disappointment, fear, and mistakes without constantly having to be stepping in.
Exactly. And I think it's hard for parents to admit or even have the self-awareness to see if they're the ones benefiting from the control. And I know that's something that you talk about a lot, which it was a concept I actually found really interesting, because I think you kind of need to apply some self-awareness to acknowledge that is something that can actually happen, and then kind of look at yourself and apply that self-awareness. Can you give us some examples of where it might be more about us than the kids?
Oh my gosh, yes. And I lived every single one of these. Are you doing their homework because you feel like you're just being the good parent? Where, my husband was always really good about letting the kids figure stuff out, no matter how painful. And I was stepping in, going, X times this equals this, boom, you're done, move on. And nobody was learning anything. Or when you push them toward an activity because it makes you proud, but maybe that doesn't make your child fulfilled, but that's the activity that you want to see them doing. For me, I love dance, and my daughter didn't really care for dance as much. We tried it, but I did have to step back and listen that even though it was something that built confidence and happiness in me, it wasn't resonating for her. Or, if you're jumping in to fix something just because you can't handle watching them struggle, or maybe you don't like the decision that they've made. We know that after our life's experiences, maybe they can do it this way and it would save them time and effort. But we're really not teaching them how to solve their own problems, how to apply ingenuity to any kind of problem solving, or to create their own confidence. One of the stories that really I like to tell, because I think it very much illustrates the level of control that I needed to have, or that I wanted to have, to just get things done. Of course, remember, 4 kids under 4, but anywhere at any age, it was always 4 kids, and 3 of them were at the same age. So we had the kids in a preschool, and my oldest was in kindergarten at this Montessori school. And I remember we had a parent teacher conference, and I was running late. And of course, got these sweaty brow theatrics. I'm wiping my brow, like, sorry, I'm late. I was busy packing all my kids' lunches. And surely you can understand that I just, can barely get it all done. And the teacher just looked at me completely unimpressed and said, "Why are you still packing their lunches?" Now, mind you, the kids were 5 and 3. And I just thought, this lady, she's crazy. She forgets what the grind feels like. And I just said, well, why wouldn't I be packing their lunches? And she said, well, are you aware of all the things they do in class when they're here? Do you know that they grind coffee, and that they serve their friends, and that the kindergartners serve as leaders and role models to the preschool kids, and that we have a peace rug. And whenever the younger kids are fighting, the kindergartners step out onto the peace rug and they help solve problems. Like, they're doing all of this stuff that they're expected to do at school that I'm not expecting them to do at home because I'm busy doing everything. Well, that day it changed. I put that mirror on myself and was like, okay, well, why am I packing their lunches? And I redesigned the whole kitchen. I put everything at their level. I remember getting frustrated that I was screaming out to the kids while they were eating, you want the blue juice or the red juice? Who wants the, and just pissed off that they weren't answering me with the flavored juice while it was thankless that I was packing their lunch. And, you don't have to tell me twice, right? So I didn't need to be controlling their process of packing their own lunch and packing what they want to eat. I was in control of shopping for the food, cutting the fresh fruit, putting everything at their level, providing the juice for them, and giving them, you need a protein, you need a fruit, you need whatever it is. These are the components you need. So from a more facilitator role, I could step back and watch them pack the lunch, but I didn't have to be packing the lunch. Did they have to get up a little earlier? Yes. All of the things that they had to do to take ownership for themselves that didn't require my intervention was all stuff that I was learning on how to manage a family of 6 and how to get a job done with 4 kids. And that was just a big, I guess, just light bulb moment for me, that I didn't have to be packing lunches of little kids. And they packed their lunch all the way through high school. And in fact, they've said for years over how all of their friends threw away half the stuff their moms packed because they didn't pack it and they weren't going to eat it. So anyway, that was a life lesson for me in terms of how it benefits me to let go of control, let go of micromanaging, and where that is going to add value in my life and in theirs.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally relate. I never forget my daughter, she's almost 11, and she's had an interest in cooking, baking, and everything culinary for like years. And she was like, I don't know, probably around 5. And and we watched, it was a Food Network show where like kids were like cooking in competition. It was a kids competition cooking show. And I remember them saying, I started cooking when I was 4 or 5, like helping out in the kitchen. And that's the day I looked at her and was like, well, you like this? Do you want to start helping out? And if I didn't see that show, it never would have crossed my mind that kids could start cooking, like obviously with supervision and things like that, and with
Mhm.
safety measures in place, but actually be in the kitchen cooking. So that was an interesting moment for me where I started to kind of expand what I thought the kids could do. It's interesting you brought up the instrument and situation, because we actually just kind of went through something similar. My daughter just became of age in their school last year where they could pick an instrument, and she liked it at first, and then it sort of started to fizzle out. So toward the end of the year I was like, is this something you still want to continue? And she kind of wasn't sure, and my perspective was, if you don't like it enough that you're willing to practice 15 minutes a day 3 days a week, maybe this isn't for you. And that was kind of the deciding factor, that it wasn't for her. Then she came back to me and was basically, other kids are like, their parents are making them do this, and
Ah.
they don't want to. So when you mentioned that, that really kind of resonated, because I was, wow, like I'm actually kind of seeing that a lot, where the parents are like, you have to do this, even though the kids don't want to. And it's clearly for whatever reasons, and I'm sure it's different for everyone, but it's something they're benefiting from or they want. And so that was really interesting that you brought that up, because it was something we were like just experiencing this past school year.
I think it's a little much of a kind of conundrum. Now that my kids are older, they do regret that they didn't stick with piano or any of the instruments. So there is a fine line between being controlling and parenting. And I know we're going to kind of get to that down the line here in our podcast. The fine line is, when do I encourage? When does encouragement become control, right? And we have to really be able to step back, and we'll get into some of those signs here in a bit. But it's interesting that kids, when given the choice, they don't always want to do things. So we do have to encourage, we do have to provide the kind of that like leadership role and be a facilitator, because we do know that down the line it's going to be beneficial for them to be able to sit down and go play a piano or pick up a guitar or a saxophone or whatever event or activity we're talking about. But it also is important to zoom out and listen to the kids and understand, what's my skin in this game? And that's going to kind of help you delineate whether it's a controlling and hovering moment or whether it's an encouraging moment. Overparenting and being controlling will wear a lot of disguises. So there's a checklist that I like to run parents through to help them identify when it's control or whether it's being a good parent. One of the questions you can ask yourself is, do you always need to be right? I will admit that was my weakness. I'm type A, I'm an entrepreneur, I make all my own decisions, I'm very empowered. It's not like I need to be right, but I did feel that, of course, they're little kids. I'm going to be right more than I'm wrong. You have to really kind of check yourself and say, who cares, right? Let it flow. We don't have to insert ourselves. And the kids, that's the only way they learn, is if we don't insert ourselves. Also, do you have a need to say, I told you so, even if it's just in your head? And admit, yes, that does feel good. There are times that I even say it out loud now, but now my kids are older, so I'm okay. I mean, we laugh about it. But are you thinking to yourself, yeah, I told you? Again, that skin in the game, we need to sort of self-check and say, is this helping or hurting? Do you swoop in and try to take care of things before your child can struggle or fail? If so, that could be an ego thing talking. That could be you not wanting to be judged, or that's masquerading as good parenting because you're there to help, but it's actually a controlling maneuver on your part. As the kids get a little older, are you emailing the coach about playtime? Or are you rewriting your kids' essays so they don't fail? The older the kids get, I have found, the higher the stakes. When they're little and they're tying their shoe or they're not wearing their coat and you're telling them they have to wear their coat, it's good to start learning to pull back at that time and at those ages. But by the time these kids are preteens, if you have not learned to stop your hovering or stop the overparenting or your involvement, it's really going to boomerang on you. But your kid is going to lose credibility with the coach. Your teacher knows what your child's capable of. If all of a sudden there's this fantastic essay written at your hand, it's not doing your child any favor. So those are some of the ways that we can sort of self-check. Are you involved in every daily moment and the outcome of those moments? And if you are, one of the side effects of that is that it drives your kids to lie to you. So why does your overparenting, your controlling, drive your kids to lie? Well, because the only way that a child can create space to make their own decisions is to lie and tell us what they think the right answer is. When we're controlling, we've got a tinge of judgment. We're implying that there's a right answer, and the right answer is what we think. The child is not going to sort of get in touch with what they feel and what their thoughts are. They're just going to give you a mime of what it is they think you want to hear and what you're looking for, but they're not deep diving into what they think and feel, and they're not formulating their own thoughts. I can recall a time when my mom, back in the 80s, 70s, we were grounded, we were punished, and I lied to my mom all the time. And I really sat with myself and decided, why am I doing that? Why did I lie to my mom? Because I don't want my kids to feel like they have to lie to me. Her grip was so tight at that time, just really micromanaging me. And I really felt under a microscope, and it really didn't leave any room for honesty, right? Lying to me was just about trying to claim some sliver of independence and to back away from the glare of her judgment. And, I'll tell her what she wants to hear, so she'll just go away. And then I'll do what I want to do when she's not looking, right? So, like, when our kids feel that they can't make mistakes, they'll either rebel or they'll become people pleasers. And I don't think we want to raise either one of those types of kids, right? We want kids to get in touch with their inner selves and make satisfying choices within our boundaries and learning from their own mistakes to build their own wisdom beyond their years. Here's the shift on how to start letting go. And this is where I did some work on myself and how I was able to finally let go. And if this topic is resonating for you, remember that letting go of control is not about giving up your authority. You're stepping into more of a leadership role, which is exactly what your kids need from you. So you're moving from more of an overparenting situation to being a facilitator who helps their child discover their own way, but yet just with your loving guidance. So when I'm working with parents in workshops or we're working through coaching, one of the places that we start is that as parents, our job is to provide structure, not a script. So we don't want to tell them what to think and how to feel. We're just providing the structure, but we're not telling them how to solve it. So as a parent, it's also very important for us to trust ourselves, which is why I put that in the title of this episode, because a lot of times we're living in fear or we're parenting in fear and we're not really trusting our gut. We're not listening to ourselves and listening to the child and really relying on that to guide us. When we trust ourselves, our children learn to trust themselves. We're setting clear boundaries, but we're giving them freedom within those boundaries. And a little helpful saying or mantra is to ask yourself, am I helping or am I hovering? When we stop controlling and hovering, and when we zoom out and let our kids try to make some of their own decisions and their own mistakes and fail, here's some of the things that the kids can start doing on their own without our involvement. They can make their own lunch, like we talked about. They can pick their own outfit, no matter how silly, no matter how ridiculous. I can remember my son, fourth grade, wearing a cowboy hat, cowboy boots, whatever he felt like putting on, he wore. And oh, wow. I'm like, boy, did he walk taller that day? So I just, you let it go. You smile and wave. Let them choose their friends. I can remember one of my kids having a friend who checked every box on what a dangerous friend would be. I really had a soft spot for this kid. Instead of saying, you can't see this kid because, he's doing all sorts of things that are beyond his years that he should be doing. And I can see the trouble coming. But the relationship and connection that we had with our son allowed us to trust him. And that meant letting go of control. That meant trusting him. That meant allowing him to make the decisions and choices and just keep the line of communication open. Because again, when we're controlling, it puts our kid in an environment where they want to lie to us. So you're not creating a connection. They're just telling you what you want to hear, right? And then just discovering their passions. If something doesn't make sense to the child, that's okay. Just let them figure it out. It doesn't need to make sense to us. It just needs to make sense to them, and let them kind of get through it. So more choices and more consequences experienced.
Boy, I got a lot to think about. This episode has been so wonderful, and just like taking it all in, because it's definitely some things that I'm going to go back and apply it in my own life. Definitely. I loved when you said giving up control doesn't mean we're giving up our authority, because I do think I've questioned that myself. Like, where's that balance? And I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people. I'm kind of going through similar things right now. My daughter's basically in those tween years, which I actually love right now in a way, like, and it's coming to me as a surprise. It's really nice because she's not quite a little kid anymore, and she's not like a teenager yet. So it like really surprised. I was like, wasn't sure how it was going to be, but I actually enjoy it. But choosing friends, where I'm at right now, we've let her, use a little bit of technology to message friends and things like that. And there are some things there that I'm like, there's a couple friends, but a couple red flags, but I just had to take a deep breath and let her choose her friends and just, kind of talk to her about relationships and friendships and in what makes a good friend and not, and sort of things like that. Yeah, that one, it's like harder than I thought, because I definitely had friends that my parents did not like. They made that clear, but they did not tell me I could not hang out with them. And at the end of the day, when those friends did choose the wrong path or made wrong decisions, I didn't. And so that's helping me, shape this, with my daughter and, choosing her.
What do you think your parents did that allowed you to stay on your path, even though they allowed you to have these friendships? What do you think they did?
Kind of really just instilled, I think, some values, like stressed to me the importance of education and things like that. Because, some of these friends were like skipping school and like smoking cigarettes. And, at that time, like my parents were smokers and they gave me education on why I shouldn't be. And it was something that they had always regretted. And so things like that. So just kind of that education. And like, we know this one smokes, I see her down the street smoking, or this one's skipping school. A little education in a way of, and encouraging me to just like choose, still make my own decisions, and expressing the importance of education and like what life could be if, I stayed on the right path really, and then backed away saying, we know these kids are doing this, back away, and, kind of let me make my own choice. So that's definitely what I'm trying to do right now too.
One of the strategies that I use and I try to help teach in some of the workshops is I had a strategy of keeping the kids productively busy. And that meant having certain expectations. So that meant, earning money, whether if you're 11 or 12, you could be babysitting, or you could be mowing lawns, or you could be doing stuff on the side. It meant doing a sport of some sort or some extracurricular activity. We always had certain expectations that kept the kids productively busy. Kids need downtime. I'm a huge fan of no homework, actually. I think it's ridiculous. That's just, me. But there's a million other things kids could be doing that are going to teach them how to live a life, balance a checkbook, pay rent, make money, invest. There's all sorts of life lessons and tips and tools that we are not teaching kids in school, but that's another podcast. Keeping kids productively busy, making sure that they are out adding value to developing skills for themselves and adding value to the world around them. And it takes a lot of hands-on parenting. It's not coming from a control standpoint as much as a managerial leadership role. Again, as a leader, I'm setting the tone for boundaries. I'm setting the tone for expectations. Within those expectations, you have a multitude of choices that I will support. And if your child has other things going on in their life when they are with that friend, we would say, great, yes, go see your buddy, but you get 2 hours because we have to get back for such and such, right? So it's controlled chaos. It's a very tightened situation that, again, allows them to make their own mistakes and learn. But when you're not overly controlling and you're not overly micromanaging them and their decisions and the people they hang out with and everything that they're choosing, that builds that connection. And the bottom line is that connection in that relationship. And when you are in a controlling situation, which I know I grew up with, I just managed the environment in the best way that I could, which was to tell my mom what she wanted to hear, and then I moved on, and she never had any insight or private details into my life. I just didn't feel comfortable sharing that. So that's the goal of this whole topic and this whole parenting strategy, is to how to create that connection, how to create and make those relationships tighter, especially in the preteen years, right? You want your daughter to tell you, hey, these are the choices my friend is making, and they don't want to feel that you're going to judge them or take that friend out of rotation.
So, giving up control for a lot of parents can feel really scary. So, where can a parent start giving up control without feeling like their whole world is going to fall apart?
It is scary, I will admit. As like I said, this is a very personal journey for me. But I suggest recognizing yourself in some of these statements, the fear, the reasons why, asking yourself, are you drilling down? Do you have too much skin in the game? How is your child reacting to your involvement? First of all, self-check. If you recognize yourself as being that way and getting pushback from your kids and you don't know what else to do, right? So here's where we start by self-recognition. And then we start by just picking one micro moment where you know that your kid is giving you pushback, or you actually are wondering, why am I getting resistance here? Let your kids pack their own backpack. And if they forget something, you do not save them. You do not go back and bring their cleats for football back to the school, right? You do not, because guess what? If you do that, they will never ever pack their cleats or feel that they have to go through their checklist or even create a checklist. But if they forget their cleats once and they don't get to play that day, oh, that hurts. And that's memorable. And they won't do that again. You cannot rescue. I know it's hard. Trust me, I've been there. They can pack their own backpacks. They can pack their own lunches. That's how they learn. You want to let them fail, and you want to let them fail safely, and then let them rise. And when they rise, they're doing it on their own. Here's what happens when we start learning to step back and just let kids discover life on their own. They stop feeling like they have to lie to please you, and they start to feel trusted. And then in so feeling trusted, and they become more trustworthy, they get better at solving their own problems, and they feel less judged, so they learn more. And you stop yelling, and your child starts thriving. There's a multitude of reasons to zoom out, let go, and let your kids figure out life on their own and not be rescued. So we don't have to have a say in every decision, in every choice, in every idea of our kids. Once I started living in the moment and letting it unfold, I relaxed more, and I became a more fun mom, a more fun wife, and I enjoyed myself more, actually. I was making my life a lot more complicated the more I tried to drill down and control. That was actually causing me pain. And I didn't realize it, right? Once I let go, let them do their laundry, let them pack their lunches, it was, oh, wow, a lot less shit on the table for me to have to handle. So it takes a knowingness to know what is yours to guide and what's theirs to learn. And that's pretty much the distinction. I can't control your feelings, but I do control how we treat others. So there's that little splitting of a hair there as to how we walk that fine line as to being a leader and a parent that creates the culture and creates the boundary and the expectation, but then how I finally tap out after that and let the kids have that freedom from there. Here's your challenge this week. What's one area where you think that you can soften your grip? What's one place that you can let your child step up, even if it's just a little bit? And where are you holding on out of fear instead of trust? You want to first start learning to trust yourself, and then by default, you'll start to trust your kid and they'll start to trust themselves. And that's where the work begins, but that's when the magic happens. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you found this helpful. If you'd like to learn more, my website is askmomparenting.com. It's also Ask Mom Parenting on Instagram and Facebook. I have a yell-free parenting group, a private group on Facebook, Yell-Free Parenting. I do posts every day. I have a lot of great content in there that you're able to join. I look forward to talking with you next time, and feel free to reach out in any way if you have questions or to have topics that you want to hear about. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
She is sure. She is sure. She is strong. She is strong. She is true. She is true. She is brave. She is brave. She is bold. She is bold. She is you. She is you. She is you. She is you. She is sure. She is sure. She is strong. She is strong. She is true. She is true. She is brave. She is brave. She is bold. She is bold. She is you. She is you. She is you. She is you. Sure of herself, yeah, she takes care of biz. Powerful and strong, yeah, she knows who she is. Has integrity, woman strong and true. You know her by name, see this woman is you. She is sure, she is sure. She is strong, she is strong. She is true, she is true. She is brave, she is brave. She is bold, she is bold. She is you, she is you. She is you, she is you. She is sure, she is sure. She is strong, she is strong. She is true, she is true. dreams, doesn't matter the age. Believes in herself, unleashed from her cage. She is sure, she is sure, she is strong, she is strong, she is true, she is true. She is brave, she is brave, she is bold, she is bold. She is you, she is you, she is you, she is you. She is sure, she is sure, she is strong, she is strong, she is true, she is true. She is brave, she is brave, she is bold, she is bold. She is you.
Hey.